Coming through fine?
Yes.
I'm Achintya. I'm a PhD student in music here. And this is my friend Jnanesh from London who will be accompanying me on the tabla. Okay, so the purpose of this lecture recital today is to introduce the audience introduce all of you to Hindustani music. This is Saraswati, the goddess of music. And she's the goddess of everything, like arts, academics, but music is a very important part of, music is a very important thing that is connected to her. So, before actually beginning with the lecture, I would like to think of my gurus, Vidushi Geeta Hegde and Professor Ojesh Pratap Singh, without whom it would not have been possible for me to come this far. So I'll just sing a brief Guru Vandana and then move on. Guru Govinda do khade kage lagu paay balihari Guru aapne jo Govinda diyo bataay. That was the Guru Vandana, and now I begin with the lecture. Here you can see the map of South Asia with India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan, and Sri Lanka and Afghanistan. Hindustani music is practiced in several of these countries, not all, but in many of them. So, if you look at what is Indian classical Raga music, there are many different musical systems within this. Hindustani music, which is our focus. There is Afghan Rag music, which is influenced by Hindustani music. There is Carnatic music, which is South Indian classical music. There is Odissi music in the state of Odisha, which you see here in the east. One second, sorry. Yeah, so in this state, Odisha, you have Odissi classical music. So Hindustani music is practiced in North India broadly, Central India, Eastern India, also in Karnataka, which is a South Indian state, and it's my home state. I mean, ancestrally I'm from here, Tamil Nadu, but I was born and brought up in Bangalore, which is the capital of Karnataka. There's a complicated history to how Hindustani music became there's a complex history to how Hindustani music became so popular in South India, but that's beyond the scope of today's lecture. Okay, so apart from India, it's also practiced in Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nepal, and even Sri Lanka. Hindustani music and most Indian classical music is based on the concept of Raga. I can't define a Raga in one line. I mean, as we go through the lecture, you will get a better idea of what a Raga is. So, if you say Raga, that is Kannada, Raga, Odia, and in Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam, you would say Ragam. Or in Hindi, or Marathi, or Konkani, or Bangla, you would say Rag. So, I'm just going to use the term Rag for the rest of the performance since we are dealing with Hindustani music. Okay, there are many different genre categories. Our focus is khayal. The main language that is used in Hindustani music is Braj Bhasha, which is it's spoken in broadly this region. But Hindustani music has a much wider spread, and it's also very popular in the UK now. Yeah. Okay, so let's look at the 12 swaras, musical notes. There are 7 swara names. Sa, Re, Ga, Ma, Pa, Dha, Ni. And there are Tivra swaras, which are sharp, and there are Komal swaras, which are flat. So if I sing all the 12 swaras together, it's not going to sound musical. It's like, Sa, Re, Ga, Ma. That's how it would sound if I sing all of these together. So that's not what we do. We just pick and choose, and we choose a set of swaras that sounds the most pleasing. So if I were to sing, so now this drone in the background is sa. That's my basic note. That sa is not a fixed frequency. It's not a fixed pitch, or it's not a key on the piano. I choose my sa depending on where I am comfortable. So today I've chosen the key as D because my voice, I usually sing at C sharp or D. That's where my sa is. And then based on that, you define all the other swaras. So if I'm going to sing the Shuddha scale, or equivalent to a major scale in Western music. Sa, Re, Ga, Ma, Pa, Dha, Ni, Sa, Sa, Ni, Dha, Pa, Ma, Ga, Re, Sa. This is one example of a combination of Sa, Re, Ga, Ma, Pa, Dha, Ni. Are you all with me so far? Yeah. So this scale was chosen as a Shuddha or natural scale around in the 19th century, when there was an influence of Western music with, the colonial rule. But earlier, in the medieval period, the Shuddha scale in North India had a flat, that is Komal, Ga and Ni, a flat third and seventh. So instead of Sa, Re, Ga, Ma, you would sing Sa, Re, Ga, Ma. And again, Pa, Dha, Ni, Sa. The third and seventh are lower. So that was the original Shuddha scale of Indian music. And that too from this key, like before Carnatic and Hindustani music, in the early medieval period. And for a long time, those swaras continued to be called the Shuddha swaras until the harmonium came in. The harmonium is a keyed instrument. I wasn't able to get a harmonium accompanist today. But I have my friend Jnanesh here with me on the tabla. One could maybe perform without a harmonium, but a tabla accompanist is indispensable. So the swaras in ancient times were connected also to animals. So you can see the peacock, cattle, goats, crane, the koel, the cuckoo, the horse and the elephant. Sa, Re, Ga, Ma, Pa, Dha, Ni. So the reason I mentioned these seasons here is Hindustani music is also intimately connected to nature and to the seasons. And we have several compositions about the monsoon and about the spring. And this bird, the koel, figures in compositions both on the monsoon and on the spring because its breeding season extends from the spring to the monsoon, and that's when it sings. And the peacock dances in the monsoon when the rains come. Yeah, so now you can see the Western note, corresponding Western note intervals. So suppose I'm going to sing a Komal Re. So these are the names of the notes themselves, not of the intervals. The interval would be the space between Sa and between that swara. So if I sing a Komal Rishabh or a Komal Re, Sa, Re, and if I sing a Shuddh Re, the next Re, Sa, Re, can you hear the difference? Are there any questions so far? Okay. So Shadja, Rishabha, Gandhara, Madhyama, Panchama, Dhaivata, Nishada. but we shorten them to sa, re, ga, ma, pa, dha, ni. The abbreviated names. So there's one sa, sa, one pa, pa, and two each of re, ga, ma, dha, and ni. Sa. So you've got three registers. Mandra, the lower. Let's first look at the Madhya Saptak. Saptak means 7. Sapta means 7, so there are 7 notes there. We look at the Madhya Saptak, the middle register, which is what defines our singing pitch. Sa, sa, re, ga, ma, pa, re, ni, da, pa, ma, ga, re, sa. This is the Madhya Saptak, sa, re, ga, ma, pa, dha, ni. The Mantra Saptak, the lower register is like ni, dha, pa, ma, ga, re, sa. That's the Mantra Saptak. The Tara Saptak, sa, re, ga, etc. So it just continues. So I choose a pitch where I can comfortably traverse the Mantra Saptak and the Tara Saptak. When I can comfortably move in these octaves. So I have chosen this pitch today. I'm actually a little more comfortable at C sharp, but D is okay for me. So there's also the Purvang and Uttarang. Sa, re, ga, ma, pa. This space is called the Purvang, the first part. And the later part, Uttarang, is ma, pa, dha, ni, sa. So these two notes, ma and pa, inhabit both the Purvang and the Uttarang. So it's all melodic. We don't use chords or harmonies. But we use something called samvad, which I will explain later. So, sa, re, ga, ma, pa, dha, ni, sa. That's called the Aroh, ascent. Sa, re, dha, pa, ma, ga, re, sa. The descent. Avaroh. Aroh, avaroh. So if I pa, dha, ni, sa, re, ga, ma, pa, dha, ni, sa, re, ga, it goes on. So, suppose this one's frequency is 1. Sa, that has the frequency which is double. So it's like if the waves are going like this, one wave of the middle sa would fit 2 waves of the higher sa. So that's why sa, sa, they sound like the same note, but the timbre of the voice is different. And pa, that's roughly at 1.5. This is Pandit Vishnu Narayan Bhatkhande, who was one of the chief modernizers of Hindustani music. His theory is what we mostly use nowadays. Okay, so now let us just plunge directly into the 10 thaats or the 10 parent scales. Rag is not the same as thaat. A thaat is just a combination of 7 notes. It doesn't have a particular life. So if I sing the first thaat in Bhatkande's system, it's a Kalyan thaat. And this has a tivra ma, that is a sharp ma, which corresponds to the interval that is called an augmented fourth in Indian music. So, sa, in Western music, sa, re, ga, ma, this is a perfect fourth. This interval is called a perfect fourth. It's called a Shuddha ma for us. If you look at an augmented fourth or a tivra ma, that swara, that note would be like sa, re, ga, ma. You can hear that it's a bit higher. So the first thaat is the Kalyan thaat, which corresponds roughly to a linear mode. So sa, re, ga, ma, pa, dha, ni, sa. Kalyan thaat. The second is the Bilawal thaat. Sa, re, ga, ma, pa, dha, ni, sa. Now the Khamaj thaat, which has a komal ni, a flat ni. Sa, re, ga, ma, pa, dha, ni, sa. Next, the Bhairavi thaat, which sounds very different. Its re and dha, the second and sixth are flattened. Sa, re, ga, ma, pa, dha, ni, sa. There is a scale similar to this in Middle Eastern music as well. Now, the Purvi thaat, which is like the Bhairavi thaat, except that it has a tivra ma. Again, like I don't expect you to remember all of this. I just want you to hear that I just want you to get a feel for the diversity of musical scales that we use. I mean, I'm not going to quiz you on these things later, but I mean, I just want you to hear the differences and like appreciate the diversity. Sa re ga ma pa dha ni sa. Bhairavi thaat. Sa re ga ma pa dha ni sa. Purvi thaat. Sa re ga ma pa dha ni sa. Marwa thaat. Now the Kafi thaat, which was the original Shuddha scale that I told you about. Sa re ga ma pa dha ni sa. That has Ga and Mi komal, Ga and Mi flat, the third and seventh flat. Asavari thaat. Sa re ga ma pa dha ni sa. This would be called the natural minor scale in Western music. I mean, if you were to imagine a natural minor scale from my pitch. Bhairavi thaat. This has all swaras komal. The Kalyan thaat in the beginning had all swaras tivra. Sa re ga ma pa dha ni sa. The Bhairavi thaat has all swaras komal, all flat. Sa re ga ma pa dha ni sa. And again, scales similar to this are also found in Middle Eastern music. In Western music, it would be called a Phrygian mode, if you were to imagine a Phrygian mode from my pitch. Now the Todi thaat, which has a very unusual scale. So sa re ga ma pa dha ni sa, sa re dha pa ma ga re sa. It's called a Todi thaat. But these are not Raags. These are just the parent scales, and we'll soon come to how Raags are made from these scales. But before that, are there any quick questions? Yes.
So the ones that don't have the modes that you listed, do they not exist?
I mean, I don't think they possibly exist, but I mean, I'm not aware of them. These 6 are the common modes that are used in Western music. But we have so these 10 thaats were propounded by Bhatkhande because he felt that they sufficed for the Raags of his time. But in modern times, we've got a much greater diversity of Raags. So just 10 thaats are not enough. We would expand it to 32. Because there are 2 each of Re, Ga, Ma, Dha and Ni. So then 2 times 2 times 2, you get a total of 32, 2 to the power 5. Yeah, so these red swaras which you see here, they are the Vikrita swaras, the sort of minor or altered notes, if you will. Yeah. So of course, this would not be a minor in Western music, it would be called an augmented fourth, or the note corresponding to that. Okay, so we looked at Aroh and Avroh, the ascent and descent. What I sang for you was a Sampurna Aroh and Avroh, because it has, Sampurna means complete, it has all 7 notes, heptatonic. You can also have an order scale, a pentatonic scale. Sa, re, ga, pa, dha, sa, to give you an example. In this case, the 4th and the 7th are absent. Sa, re, ga, pa, dha, sa, this is order. Sa, re, ga, pa, dha, ni, sa, 6. This would be called Shada. So, there can be you have many different combinations. You can have 5, 7, 6, 7, 7, 6, 5, 5, 6, 6, 5, 6, etc. So there is a chalan, there is an overall movement of the raga, overall grammar of it. It has a vadi, which is one note that is a dominant one. Samvadi is a note that is in conversation with it. You also have these swara pairs, which are characteristic of ragas. So like I've written in my paper in 2023, it's a complex grammatical and aesthetic structure. It's not merely a scale. So I'll just give you an example of 2 order rags, 2 pentatonic rags, Bhupali and Deskar. They have the same scale. Sa, re, ga, pa, dha, sa, sa, dha, pa, ga, re, sa. But now when I sing them, it's going to sound very different. In Bhupali, I give most importance to ga, the 3rd. Whereas in Deskar, I give importance to dha, the 6th. So Deskar is a morning raga and it gives more importance to the higher swaras. Bhupali starts low and gradually moves up. I'm coming back again and again to this note because it's the most important in this raga. This is Bhupali. Now when I sing Deskar, I'm not going to start from below. I'll directly go up. Directly from Sa, complete jump like that. Stopping on Pa. So it feels very different. It feels completely different because it's like all the higher swaras are more important here. I had given another talk about my computational work on these two rags at the Center for Music and Science recently. Now, so this is just to give you a basic idea of rags, but now we'll move to tal, which is rhythm. And this is where Jnanesh comes in. Yeah. So, you have a certain number of matras, a certain number of beats, but that's not all. There's also vidha, a division. Like how do you divide those beats? And there are also, like, there's tali and khali. Tali is where you give more force to the instrument, like dha. Like, can you just demonstrate that? The khali would be where you give less force, like ta. So, like, these differences in sounds, like, they also, like, the difference in timbre of the different beats is also what makes the rhythm interesting. I mean, yeah. So, the first beat is called a sam. So the simplest tal would be teen tal, which is 16 beats, 4, 4, 4, 4. So it has tali, tali, khali and tali. So dha, dhin, dhin, dha, dha, dhin, dhin, dha, dha, din, din, da, da, din, din, dha. So he came back to the sound, to the first beat. And you can have ek tal, 12 beats. Dhin, dhin, dhage, trika, tun, na, ka. So when I show like this, it's a tali. When I show like this, it's a khali, like empty beat. Full beat and empty beat. So dhin, dhin, dhage, trika, tun, na, ka, ta, dhage, trika, dhin, na. That's ek tal. So like, again, to tell you, just to give you another example of how the number of beats is not everything, the way you divide them also matters. If you look at jhap tal, that's a 10 beat tal, 10 beat cycle, it's divided as 2, 3, 2, 3. Dhin, na, dhin, dhin, na, din, na, din, din. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. But if I take another 10 beat tal with the same number of beats but a different way of dividing, like that's sul tal, like that you would divide sul tal as 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, not as 2, 3, 2, 3, or 4 and 6. So dha, dha, din, ta, kita, dha, kita, gata, gadi, gana. So you can see that the divisions also make a big difference. Like, this is just to give you another example. So there are tals with 6 beats, 7 beats, 7.5 beats, 8 beats, 9 beats, 11 beats, and so on. So now, I'll talk about Rag Shuddha Kalyan, which I will also sing. So, thaat minus the varja swaras, minus the forbidden swaras would give you the aroh and the avaroh of the Rag. So, Kalyan thaat is the thaat of Shuddha Kalyan. Sa, re, ga, ma, pa, da, ni, sa. That's the parent scale. Now, while going up in Shuddha Kalyan, it is like Bhupali. Like you don't have ma and ni, you don't have the 4th and the 7th. Sa re ga pa dha sa. While coming down, you have all 7. Sa re dha pa ma ga re sa. But that's not the rag. If I sing the Aroh according to the rag, I would sing ni and ma with slides like sa re ga pa da sa sa re da pa ma ga re sa. If I change the length like sa re da pa ma ga, these two swaras come only like to that extent in this rag. But if I sing sa re da pa ma ga, that's not Shuddha Kalyan anymore. That is Rag Yaman, which has all 7 swaras in both directions. So versus if I just change the lengths of swaras, the rag changes. So now Ga is the most important swara in Shuddha Kalyan, Dha is the second most important. That's why I've emphasized them like this. So the slide is called Meen and it's very common in Hindustani music. It's like one of the pillars of Hindustani music. So the Sa to Dha. Sa Dha Pa Ga. I'm not saying the Ni and Ma, but they're there. Okay, so I will directly start with the Bandish in Shuddha Kalyan now. I'll do a brief alap, which is a slow, extempore, exposition of the phrases of the rag. None of this is memorized. I mean, your teacher teaches you, your guru teaches you the grammar of the raga, and then you just, right now, I didn't prepare this lecture, I'm just talking to you naturally. Similarly, when I sing, it would also be natural because I know the grammar. So the lyrics of the composition are here, but I'll first start with the alap. First sing a Vilambit composition, slow speed. We demonstrated Ektal in the beginning, but now this will be like a much slower version of that Ektal. Vilambit Laya, slow speed. So, slow tempo. And I will also do alap within the composition. That's what you do in the Vilambit composition. So when I sing, you will understand. I do all this improvisation, then I come back to the sum, back to the first beat. First I sing the composition as I've learned it, and then I improvise. So, Bihari lagi, bolan na lagi, papihari, nanagi, bolan lagi. I came back to the song. Bolan lagi, papihari, nanadi, maika, bhavana, bhave, Mandar bajo re, 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 mandar bajo, bajo re, mandar bajo re, mandar bajo re, mandar bajo re, At sukh ho jiyarwa, at sukh ho jiyarwa, aaj hamare aaye piyarwa, rom rom tulsi naam darwajo, aajo re mandar Saras bhed paran bajaye, saras bhed paran bajaye, ya bir piyad mar jaye, ya bir piyad mar jaye, kaka dhilang umagita garigan, umagita tagadhilangana, tagadhilanga dhumagita tagadhilanga garigan, dhumagita tagadhilangana, bajo bajo re mandar bajo, bajo re mandar bajo, mandar bajo, mandar Saras bhed paran bajaye, ya bir piyad mar jaye, tagadhilang umagita garigan, umagita tagadhilang, tagadhilang umagita garigan, umagita tagadhilang, bajo bajo re mandar bajo, bajo re mandar bajo, mandar bajo, mandar bajo. Thank you. Normally I would sing this for much longer, but I thought I could shorten it. Are there any quick questions before we move on to the last part?
Is this music notated?
Yes, but we do not use a notation when we sing it. It's all in here.
Yeah.
I mean, the notation is used just for compositions. I mean, the alap and the taan and all the improvisation I did, that's not notated. The compositions would be notated, but that's more for a pedagogical purpose, or for preserving them for posterity. But when you're performing, you do not use any notations. It's discouraged. You're supposed to sing from here. Yeah. And from here, of course. Yes.
Can you tell us something about when you slide between notes and when you don't?
Sorry, 1 second. Yeah.
Could you tell us something about when it's appropriate to slide between two different notes and when you shouldn't?
That's very Raag specific.
Okay.
Like sa ra pa ga. This will happen in Raag Shuddha Kalyan. Whereas in Raag Yaman you do it differently. There also you have a slight but different nature. That's in Shuddha Kalyan. That's in Yaman. Each Raag has its own rules, so it's very, very specific to the Raag. Yes, please.
Can you tell us more about the genesis of the rag? Is it one individual who comes up with it, or how
These
does
things
it
have been
develop?
passed on to us over the centuries. I mean, they just evolved gradually. Many people came up with them in many places, so it's not like there was one person who created ragas. No, it's not like that. But I mean, they've been passed on to us over the centuries.
But there's still some ragas which are like associated to individual singers, aren't there?
Yes, I mean, there are individual singers who create their own ragas also. I mean, there are ragas that are attributed to certain people. Like, I mean, there are traditional ragas and then there are ragas that people contribute. And if a raga was contributed by a musician in medieval times, it becomes tradition. Yeah. Shuddha Kalyan is a very old raga, and we can't really say who created it. It's like, maybe it's at least from the 17th century. Even Yaman is equally old. Bhupali is equally old. But Deskar, the other raga with the higher notes which I demonstrated, that's not that old. So now I'll sing. I just want to introduce you to the concept of samvad, after which I will end with Rag Bhairavi. Samvad is like I told you about the Purvang and Uttarang, Saregamapa and Mapa Dhanisa. The conversations between Purvang and Uttarang are called samvad. So now we look at Rag Bhairavi, which has a completely different scale from Shuddha Kalyan. Like all the notes that are not in the Kalyan scale are in the Bhairavi scale. So if I just say Kalyan, that means either Shuddha Kalyan or Yaman, either of these two ragas. So anyway, now moving on to Bhairavi. Bhairavi has all Komal swaras. So let me just... Sa re ga ma pa dha ni sa ni dha pa ma ga re sa. Bhairavi is Sampurna. It has all 7 swaras while going up and while coming down. Shuddha Kalyan is order Sampurna. That is pentatonic, heptatonic. It has 5 and 7. Bhairavi has all 7. So now let us look at how samvad works here. There's basically like a symmetry between Saregama and Padhanisa, or between the Purvang and the Uttarang. Saregama Padhanisa. You can see that the spacing of swaras is same. Like Bhairavi is an excellent rag for samvad because it has a lot of it. Some rags don't have any, but Bhairavi has a lot. And a rag that has more samvad can be expanded for a longer time. Saregama Padhanisa Nisa Gama Padha Pa Gama Dhanisa Risa. You can see the sort of correspondence here. Nisa Gama Padha Pa Gama Dhanisa Risa. The spacing is the same. Dha Pa Ma Ga Re Sa Ni Dha Gama Ga Sa Re Sa Ni Padha Pa Sa Re Ma Re Sa Padha Sa Dha Pa. And now Bhairavi also uses some additional swaras. Padha Ni Sa Re Ga Re Ga. This re is also used. This one. You can call it an accidental, or in Hindustani we say vivadi swara, like an additional swara that is used in the raga. Sa ga re ga sa re sa. If you want to match with that, you have to bring in the other tha. Sa ga re ga sa re sa pa ni dha ni pa dha pa. Now, ga ma pa ma ga sa re sa. But in the Uttarang, what do you have? Ni sa re sa ni pa dha pa. Ga ma pa ma ni sa re sa. So that re is not matching with that pa. There's a mismatch there. So what do? You bring in the Tivra Ma, the Ma which I was using in Yaman and Shuddha Kalyan. Ga ma pa ma ga re sa. Instead of this, you sing ga ma 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 ga re sa. Sort of a chromatic usage of the two Ma's. Like it's a sort of strange combination of notes. Yeah. So before I demonstrate Rag Bhairavi, I can just maybe take some quick questions. Is there anything?
It's something I didn't quite understand. So you're going to use notes which are not part of the raga just for that particular purpose?
Yeah, so the thing is, some ragas allow the usage of more notes.
Okay.
As in, if you don't use those notes, the raga will still be the same. But it just becomes more interesting if you use those notes.
Okay.
I mean, in the sense they are permissible. Like, you can sing the raga without them.
Yeah.
But then those additional notes also become a part of that raga. Because the way you use those notes is also very specific to that raga.
Okay.
Just because you're using those notes, you won't use them in the way you use them in some other raga. Now, it's very much a Bhairavi phrase, even though I'm taking that additional swara there. Yeah. So now I'll sing a composition of Pandit Arun Kasharkar. He is the eldest brother of Pandit Ulhas Kasharkar, who is my guru's guru. My second guru, Professor Ojesh Pratap Singh, who has been my guru since 2010. His guru is Pandit Ulhas Kasharkar, and Ulhas ji's eldest brother is Pandit Arun Kasharkar. So he's a prolific composer, and he's composed this bandish, this composition in praise of the god Shiva, whom you can see in the picture, and that's goddess Parvati next to him. Hindustani music is actually a combination of Hindu and Islamic traditions, as I had explained earlier. And there's also some Sikh inputs as well. But the predominant religious traditions in Hindustani music are the Hindu tradition and the Islamic tradition. So like you have compositions about Hindu gods, you also have compositions about Muslim saints, or about Allah, or about the Prophet Muhammad. So there's all of that. And plus you have compositions that are not about any god. Like the Shuddha Kalyan compositions that I presented, the first was Viraha, pain of separation. The second was like, the joy of reunion. So you could also interpret the lover as a god, but that's not necessary. There are also a lot of those songs that are not about any deity. So Hindustani music is a combination of all of these things. So I just forgot to mention, the slow composition that I sang in Shuddha Kalyan, it talks about a bird, the papiha, which is a cuckoo that sings in the rainy season. And when it sings, it's as if it's calling out to the beloved. So when a woman is missing her beloved, or when you're missing your beloved, hearing that bird's call is torture because it constantly reminds you of them. Yeah. But in the second composition of Shuddha Kalyan, you're playing drums to welcome your lover because he's come back. Anyway, now we are moving on to a very, very different feeling. Shiva is not a usual god. He's very unconventional. He smears his body with ash. He has a snake on his neck. He wears a tiger skin. So he's completely different from all the other gods. कर त्रिशूल डमरुधर नीलकंठ महादेव महेश्वर देवनपति पंचवदन शिव पिनाक विषधर पंचवदन शिव पिनाक विषधर गौरीहर गिरिजापति शंकर गौरीहर गिरिजापति शंकर त्रिपुरारी गंगाधर हर हर त्रिपुरारी गंगाधर हर हर रसदास गात सूर्यनगर मन महादेव महेश्वर देवनपति 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 चंद्रभाग धर गज मुंडमाल कर त्रिशूल कर त्रिशूल डमरुधर नीलकंठ महादेव महेश्वर देवनपति महादेव महेश्वर देवनपति महादेव महादेव महेश्वर देवनपति महादेव महेश्वर महादेव देवनपति चंद्रहार धर गले मूंड माल महादेव महेश्वर देवनपति महादेव महेश्वर देवनपति देवनपति कर त्रिशूल डमरुधर नीलकंठ महादेव महेश्वर देवनपति धनि सागर गरे गरे ग सारे सा धनि सा पदनि सा गरे ग सा ग म ध प नि र प ध प म प म गरे गरे ग सारे सारे महादेव नि सा ग म प ध म सा ध प ध म प ग म ग म प म ध म नि सा ग म प ग म ध नि सा प ध नि सा रे ग रे ग सा रे नि सा ध नि सा रे सा नि ध म ध प म ग ग म म ग रे सा म प रे सा ध प ध म प ग म प ध प म ग म म ग रे ग रे म ग रे ग सा रे नि सा ध नि सा ग रे सा म ग प म ध प नि ध प ग म ध नि सा ग रे सा नि ध प म ग रे सा नि सा म रे सा सा ग प ध नि सा रे सा रे म हे सा नि ग रे सा नि ध प ग रे सा नि सा ग म ग म ध नि सा प ध नि सा ग रे सा नि ध प म ग रे सा नि सा महादेव महेश्वर देवनपति महादेव महेश्वर देवनपति पंचवदन शिव पिनाक विषधर Panchabadar Shiva Pinod Vishadhar Panchabadar Shiva Pinod Vishadhar Gauri Hara Girijapati Shankar Tripurari Gangadhar Har Rasadas Kar Sumedana Kar Mana Mahadev Maheshwar Devan Pad Mahadev Maheshwar Devan Pad Mahadev 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 Maheshwar Thank you. So Rag Bhairavi is typically sung towards the end of a Hindustani concert. That's the end of the main part, and we can take some questions now. There's also like a half an hour of workshop after this for those who would like to stay back. But let's just take some quick questions. Yes.
You said the 7 notes are related to the seasons or
So 7 notes not to the seasons, they're sort of related to the animals.
nature.
But the thing is, we'll never know where that came from because these were like, this is very ancient and medieval texts.
Okay.
So we don't exactly know how that came into being.
Yes, I was going to ask you.
But it's something that's been passed on and so it's I mean, the time when these things were talked about was, a time when the music was very different. So we can't really say what associations they saw back then. But I just showed you those pictures to tell you that we are that the music is very intimately connected to nature as well. Yes.
Actually, I have a question a little bit similar. But, the rags are associated with time of the day as well?
Yes. So like I said, Bhupali is a night rag and Deskar is a morning rag.
And how strict are people on that? Because technically,
They're reasonably strict, but the thing is, there are some ragas, like for example, Rag Adana or Rag Basant or Rag Sohni, which were meant to be sung at this weird time, which is neither night nor morning. But what has happened now is most of the concerts are in the evening, so then people start singing those ragas in the evening concerts as well. Even midnight ragas or past midnight ragas enter evening concerts. It's become a bit relaxed. But Bhairavi is supposed to be morning rag, but Bhairavi is sung at any time, because it's typically sung at the end. It wasn't like that in the past, but somehow it became the rag that people sing at the end. And Shuddha Kalyan is a night rag, early night. So they're associated with time of day. There are also ragas for certain seasons. There are ragas for the monsoon, ragas for the spring. Yeah.
Are there women also singing ragas?
Of course.
I hope so.
Of course.
And
There are equal numbers of men and women. Yeah.
how does that fit in with khayals?
Ghazal is an entirely different thing.
Yes. That's what
Ghazal is a poetic form.
Yes.
So, in South Asia, people started setting ghazals to tune inspired by Hindustani music. But that's a different musical tradition. It's inspired by Hindustani music, but it's not Hindustani music. Ghazals might be composed in rags, but that's not necessary. They might just be in a freestyle tune as well. Now, ghazal is fundamentally a poetic form. But in South Asia, there's a strong tradition of singing ghazals, which draws influence from Hindustani music. Yeah. So that's a different form. Khayal is a different form. What I sang today is khayal. There's also Dhrupad, there is Thumri, there is Bhajan, there is Ghazal. So it all fits into one big sphere. So Ghazal is sort of within Hindustani music, but also outside it. Yes?
The ragas you've sung all seem very sad. Is that a characteristic of the music or?
No. Bhairavi is a very intense rag. It will seem a bit sad. But Shuddha Kalyan, it's a rag that can express any feeling. Like the Vilambit, the slow composition that I sang in Shuddha Kalyan, that is like a sad composition, missing the beloved. The papiha bird is calling and I'm not feeling like being at home. I'm not receiving any message from my lover. But the second composition, which was faster, that's a happier composition. So, again, the kind of emotion that a rag awakens in you is very, very subjective. There's another rag called Shri in Hindustani music, Sa re pa ma pa da da to me this sounds very somber, and it's sort of, I imagine like, Shiva meditating in the cremation ground with ashes all over his body and ghosts all around. This was my perception of Shri. But when I told this to a friend of mine, she's like, no, for me Shri is an elephant walking, like no connection. So it's very subjective. It's not that this rag is supposed to be sad or supposed to be happy. You have to also see what the composition is saying. So we have a composition about Shiva that is going to be very intense, like this composition that I sang in Bhairavi. But when you have in Shuddha Kalyan, like, even the sad composition was more like a woman missing her lover. So there's a softness there. Whereas Bhairavi is more like, again, if there's a composition about Shiva, there's more force there. Like, this kind of force, gamaks, I would use more of those in a composition on Shiva. So it's not just the rag, but also what the lyrics are describing. But even if I have a composition about Shiva, if I'm talking about the romance between Shiva and Parvati, there the tone would be different. The timbre would be different. So it really also depends on what the composition is saying. The same rag can be used to express multiple feelings. Bhairavi could also be used to express a happy feeling. Okay, yes, anything more? Yes, please.
Which rags would be taught first, say, to children in school? Are there particular...
Yeah, it depends. Some gurus choose to teach Yaman first, which has an augmented fourth. It's like the leading mode. Yaman is sort of the parent rag for Shuddha Kalyan. Some teachers also teach Bhairav. Bhairav, it has this scale, like sa re ga ma pa da ni sa, this scale. Rag Bhairav would be like ga ma re sa dha re sa ga ma dha pa ga ma da re sa re sa re sa da ni da pa dha pa ma ga re ga ma pa ma re sa. But my training did not begin with either of these ragas, neither Yaman nor Bhairav. I learned a different rag called Kedar, and then I learned Rag Durga. So that was my training. My training was very different. Yeah, so we have till 3. The original thing was just till 2:30, but now we're extending till 3. We just have an additional workshop for like those of you who want to stay back. So we can either take more questions or we can discuss something else. Or I could make you, I could sort of, we could do some practical stuff like you all singing with me. We can do like whatever. So what do you want to do? Do you want to take more questions or do you want to just...
Some singing will be good. I'm in favor of singing.
Okay, yes please.
How is it